In today's video, it's episode 3 in my series about cruising on the Ohio River with American Cruise Lines. The episode begins with the ship visiting Madison, Indiana, and we have almost a full day to explore this picturesque and historic river city. Then we visited Cincinnati, where we were docked right next to the ballpark where the Cincinnati Reds play their home games. And the highlight of my whole trip was taking an insider tour of the ballpark. At the end of episode 2, our ship, American Melody, had just arrived in Madison, Indiana. And the next morning, as I usually do, I started the day by launching the drone, so I could take a look around, see what the weather was doing, and see if I could spot anything interesting happening. But this was about 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning, so as you might guess, there just wasn't a whole lot happening yet in Madison. Here's a little compilation of everything I saw that morning as I explored Madison by drone on a sleepy Sunday morning. After my early morning drone flight, I had a nice breakfast in the ship's restaurant, and later that morning, at a dock right next to our ship, I boarded this little jet boat for a fun adventure on the river. And once we got started, it wasn't long before the captain hit that throttle, and people were grabbing for their hats. There's a power plant just downriver from Madison. We buzzed by there first. Then we zipped over to the Kentucky side of the river because there were several bald eagle nesting sites there, and the jet boat captain knew exactly where they were. We caught up with a towboat pushing barges down the river, and the captain filled us in on the basics. This is the largest you ever see on the Ohio River. They lashed 3 barges side by side and then put 5 sets like that in a row for a total of 15 barges pushed by 1 towboat. There were a lot of parts of the river where the hillsides were green and undeveloped, and other parts that were very industrial. It was interesting to see, and great to have the captain explaining things to us. After almost 2 hours exploring the river on the jet boat, we headed back to our cruise ship. And I should add that there is no bathroom on the jet boat, so don't sign up for this excursion if that's going to be a problem. And maybe don't drink a lot of coffee before this excursion either. At about 6 p.m., after a nice day in Madison, the captain backed our ship out of the sand, and we were on our way to our next destination, Cincinnati, Ohio. I headed to the ship's restaurant for dinner, but my GoPro kept recording this time-lapse video for me. For the first couple of hours after we left Madison, things on both sides of the river were mostly undeveloped. That's Indiana on the left and Kentucky on the right. At one point, we came up to a fairly large coal-fired power plant. In this time-lapse format, it's going to go by real fast, but if you look carefully on the right, you'll see lots of barges that are used to deliver the coal for the plant from the nearby mines in West Virginia. Inside the ship, in the river lounge, this was our entertainer for the evening, and he knew exactly what to play to get the crowd to sing along.
I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life.
Notice that behind him, through those windows, you can see we were coming up to a dam and a set of locks. We can see it best from the GoPro in time-lapse mode. This is the first of 13 locks that we will go through this week, although quite a few of them will be at night when we're all sleeping. This is the Markland Locks Dam. These locks were built in the 1950s, and you can thank your United States Army Corps of Engineers for keeping these locks operational all these years. You saw the lights coming on there. It was getting late, and it had been a busy day for me, so I headed to bed at that point. The next morning, I was so excited, I got up before the sun and got my drone up in the air before there was even enough light to get a very good picture. I was excited because our ship had arrived in Cincinnati, Ohio, while everyone was sleeping, and I knew that we'd be docked next to the ballpark where the Cincinnati Reds play their home games, and I just couldn't wait to see what it looked like from the drone. That arena to the right is where the Cincinnati Cyclones hockey team plays. I'll give you a look from a different angle here. And I want you to take a look in the distance. You can barely see the football stadium where the Cincinnati Bengals play. Several hours later, when there was a lot more light, I was able to get better pictures. And I want to just point out this building. I love the design of the top of that building. Some nice architecture there. That's the headquarters building for the Great American Insurance Group, and they also bought the naming rights for the ballpark, which is known as Great American Ballpark, and it opened in 2003. Prior to that, the Cincinnati Reds played in Riverfront Stadium, which later became known as Synergy Field. Now, this was about 2 o'clock that afternoon. I'm not sure why these people were gathered here, but if you look over on the field of the ballpark, you'll see players on the field warming up for tonight's 7 o'clock game. There's a beautiful old bridge not far from where our ship is docked. It's the John A. Roebling Suspension Bridge. It connects Covington, Kentucky, which you can see in the background there, with Cincinnati, and it opened to traffic in 1867. At that time, it was the longest suspension bridge in the world. And of course, that's the Ohio River underneath the bridge. Well, the highlight of this whole day for me was an excursion that a small group of passengers and I took to tour Great American Ballpark, the home of the Cincinnati Reds. And I must say that I was kind of surprised that only about 10 of us wanted to go, because it was a great tour. It wasn't just a tour of the parts of the stadium you'd see if you had a ticket for a game. A big focus was some of the special lounges that most fans never see, like the Diamond Club, where fans can enjoy a full buffet before the game, and where a set of windows looks into the tunnel that the players use to get from the locker room to the dugout. There's also a lounge that affluent families can buy into that serves pizza and hamburgers and hot dogs for the kids, but also has a bar and other amenities for the adults. And the kids never have to ask mom and dad for money to buy food, drinks, or ice cream because it's all included. But the ultimate ballpark lounge, with access for only the most affluent fans, is known as the BCL Press Club, where fans can enjoy leather seats looking out onto the field, and there are lockers where club members can store their own personal stash of liquor, so it'll be waiting for them at the next game. Something I got a kick out of seeing was some unconventional seating, like seats that each have their own power outlets to power whatever device you want to have with you during the game. I was also impressed to see that behind the stadium, there's a kids-sized ballpark so that young kids can play a game before the big game. I got an inside look at some of the broadcast facilities, like this radio booth, this studio for television broadcasters, and this studio for radio interviews. Also a remote control camera that doesn't need a cameraman, and then a full-size camera where the skills of a professional cameraman are very much needed. It was interesting to be there early enough to watch the crew remove the tarp that protects the infield, and also to see them removing the tarp off of home plate, and to watch the grounds crew prepare the field for that night's game. But the highlight of the tour was being able to walk down on the field, posing for a photo there, and also being able to hang out in the Reds dugout, and to pose for a photo there too. Our tour guides were lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans, but they weren't only telling us what the Reds management would want us to hear. Our guides were also quite honest about the fact that the Reds haven't won a World Series in the last 35 years, and have only had a winning record in 8 of the last 30 seasons. I appreciated their honesty. After the guided tour of the ballpark, they let us loose in the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame and Museum, a 2-story, 16,000-square-foot facility housing memorabilia covering the 160-year history of the team. All 5 of their World Series trophies are here, as well as vintage jerseys and championship rings. You'll see tributes to some of the great seasons and big moments in important games. There's a lot of Reds baseball cards, and there's tributes to all the great Reds players, including Johnny Bench, Barry Larkin, and Ken Griffey Jr., as well as tributes to the Reds broadcast announcers. In fact, there's an interactive exhibit where you can try doing the radio play-by-play. And at another exhibit, you can see if you have what it takes to be a TV sports announcer. I was really impressed with this excursion, especially the guided tour of the ballpark, and I'm pretty sure I'll always remember my day in Cincinnati and the great insider's tour I had of this stadium, appropriately named Great American Ballpark. After a casual lunch aboard the ship, I headed across town on another excursion that afternoon. The bus dropped us off over at the Cincinnati Zoo. But before I get into the animals, I want to start you off with a montage of some of the beautiful landscaping at the zoo. Now, while I show you some of the animals from the Cincinnati Zoo, I want to tell you about why you should be using My Travel Agent when you book your next ACL cruise. And when I refer to Caitlin Gallagher as My Travel Agent, I'm really underselling it. She's actually the owner of a travel agency that works extremely closely with American Cruise Lines and books more cruises with ACL than the vast majority of other travel agencies do. Caitlin is extremely knowledgeable about American Cruise Lines. She can answer all your questions for you. And she's great at setting you up with additional days, either before or after the cruise, so that you can explore places like Louisville, where the default itinerary doesn't give you much time to explore. She can also arrange private transportation for you from the airport or hotel, and she can set up your flights for you to make sure that there's enough contingency time to absorb delays. The best part is that having My Travel Agent do all that work for you doesn't cost you any more than it would if you did all the work. Her services are paid for by the cruise line. So here's Caitlin's contact information. Give her a call, send her an email, or visit her website to get the ball rolling. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode. I'll pick the story back up right here next week in episode number 4 in my series about sailing the Ohio River from Louisville to Pittsburgh with American Cruise Lines. That next episode is going to be one not to miss. It'll start with our ship sailing out of Cincinnati and heading right into a nasty thunderstorm. Subscribe to my channel. It's free if you want to be sure not to miss that episode. I'm Jim Zim. Thanks for watching.